Okay, in this video, I wanted to walk you through Box Drive and syncing your work in the lab environment. So you might be already familiar with Box and you might use it in a different way. Some people use Box Cloud only, but I think it's most convenient for the lab to set up Box Drive. So you'll go to the lab computers, you might have to log into Box Drive and get that going on your profile, but that's what you're going to need to do because what happens with the lab computers is the files get wiped out periodically. You don't know when, but you want your work to persist. And so if you use just the lab computers and the local drives, things are going to be problematic. Okay, so what this is showing here, we'll dive down to this lab computer setting. Notice it's the drive D and it's mapped into Box already. And so if you do that with Box Drive, everything's synced between the lab computer and Box, okay? So the nice thing about that is, suppose that you're on your lab computer. So we're over here with the lab computer. We're going to switch into the lab computer. All right, you can create a file and it will show up on the lab computer. It appears like a local drive, but it gets synced up into Box Cloud. And then if you want to access it later from your personal computer, you can, because if your personal computer is also mapped to Box, those clouds will be there. Okay, so let's do that one more time. You create a file on the lab computer, it gets synced over here to Box, and then you have access to it on your personal computer. All right, so then let's say you switch over and you're on your personal computer. Okay, you can create a file over here. It will get synced up to Box and it will be available to you on the lab computer. So you probably already knew this about Box, but I just wanted to make it clear why we need to use Box and the fact that you can have access to your files on your personal computer. So this lets you work at home, and then when you log into Box, you'll be able to see the files and they'll show up through the cloud sync. All right, so along the way, I have some things I want to tell you about that are important for actually file naming conventions, independent of it being Box. All right, so it turns out we're going to use a software/hardware development tool called Vivado, and Vivado really does not like spaces and special characters in the file name. So here's some examples of special characters: parenthesis signs, pound signs, and signs, at signs, those kind of things. Try not to use those. All right. So this column is, you shouldn't use ELC space 2337 space labs. You should do more over here on the do side. ELC 2337, you can use an underscore, you can use a hyphen. You could even just push these together and not have a dash or a hyphen. But the point is there's no spaces or special characters. All these examples of the do not have special characters or spaces. Now, this applies not only to files, but to full path names. So sometimes you will inadvertently set up something and you might use a space in there and you forget about that. And then you go and you don't use spaces in the file names and you forget, it's back in my path. And so that can cause problems with Vivado, and they're really hard to debug. So that's my advice. Try to be consistent with using no spaces in file names and no spaces in directory names, no spaces anywhere in the path. By the way, I think that's a good tip for general computer use, because later on, as you get more advanced with your computing skills, sometimes you might want to use the terminal interface, and you can navigate really quickly through file spaces with the terminal, provided you don't have spaces in the file names. If you put spaces in the file names, some of those tools for navigation in the terminal don't work as well. So this advice holds across the board, not just for this class. Try to avoid spaces and special characters in file names.